My Roman Empire is what happened to Tamla Horsford. Now, if you don't know this crime case, strap in because it really is wild. Tamla was a 40-year-old married mum of 5 boys. She was living in Georgia and she was a lovely woman. Everyone who knew her said she was super warm. She's obviously, as you can see, beautiful, and she's just got this lovely energy about her. She was nicknamed Supermum because of just how supportive she was to her boys. She would often show up to their events with signs just cheering them on. Her youngest son was just 4 at the time of this case. Now, obviously, as a busy mum, she needed a rest sometimes, and an upcoming adult sleepover seemed like the perfect opportunity. It was November 2018 and Tamla's friend Jeannie Mayer invited 9 women to sleep over at her home. Most guests started to arrive around 7 o'clock. And after initially stating that this would be a female-only sleepover, 2 men did actually end up turning up and going to the basement of the home to watch some football on the TV. One was Jeannie's boyfriend, Jose, and one was another woman's husband called Tom. The women had all met through their son's football team, but some didn't know Tamla too well. Tamla was also the only black woman there, and some people feel this may be relevant in this case and how things panned out. Tamla showed up with a gift of a bottle of tequila, and I feel like this is a really nice thing to do, to show up at somebody's house if you're invited to stay over and just kind of bring a bottle of something. However, all of the women declined to drink this, and in their recollections of the night were pretty disgusted by the smell of this drink. They all recalled it stinking, and in my opinion they just kind of sounded a bit snobby and almost like they were bullying her. Personally, if I was given a gift, no matter what it was, I would just kind of thank the person, and if I smelt it and it didn't smell good, I would just put it away. Now, the night carried on and it was relatively uneventful. The girls were sort of taking photos and playing Cards Against Humanity as well. The only thing really to note was apparently Tamla had been smoking C during the evening, and one of the women apparently told her not to. Someone had jokingly called her the female Bob Marley. Now, Tamla was apparently the last one up, and she had said that she was going to go and have a smoke outside at around 1:47 a.m. Now, this was confirmed by a partygoer named Bridget, who was picked up at this time. There was actually a home security system set up at this house, and it did send an alert every time the door opened. Alerts showed that the outside door opened and closed and then opened again, but was not shut. So we can kind of assume that the door was left open or at least ajar. This was reportedly at 1:57 a.m. So we're now at the following day, and apparently Jeannie's Aunt Madeline came down to make some coffee at roughly 8:30 a.m. I've seen it reported as slightly differing times, but kind of this time in the morning. When she did, she saw something chilling. She stated that she saw Tamla lying on the ground outside face down, almost in like a faceplant position. Now, I can't imagine what I would do in this situation, but I imagine I would either run over to the person on the floor or immediately call for help or an ambulance. Rather than immediately call for help though, she said she started praying and then decided to go and tell Jeannie what she'd seen, again, rather than going actually out to Tamla. She said she knocked on her bedroom door but heard the shower running, so waited, and Jeannie denied being in the shower at this time and said she was asleep. A few minutes later, she apparently tried again on the door and Jose came out, and Madeline told him there was something wrong with your friend from the islands. She said she couldn't remember Tamla's name. Now, the 911 call was very strange. It's apparent that no one actually checked to see if she was breathing and nobody attempted to do CPR. The call is very focused kind of around what the attendants at the party assume happened, which was that they assumed she'd fallen off the balcony. They also take the time to state that she had been drinking and even detail the fact that they'd been playing Cards Against Humanity, which I don't know how that's relevant to a 911 call. People at the party described her as being face planted with both arms by her side. However, the police report states she had one arm up, kind of in a bit of an unusual position, like almost like up near her head with her fist closed. Jose also stated that he moved a cigarette off the balcony because of his OCD. Now, the original autopsy stated that she had a dislocated wrist, broken neck, and laceration to her heart muscle. And I say original autopsy for a reason. We'll explore this in a little bit. Interestingly, the house had CCTV outside of the house covering the area where Tamla would have been. However, apparently all of the CCTV cameras had no battery. The scene was also never preserved as a crime scene, so valuable evidence could have been lost. It also just seemed odd that she would fall over the balcony when there was a 4-foot railing, as you can see. The police interviews that were conducted seemed extremely informal. The party attendees did not seem to be pressed for much information, and Jeannie also bought the investigating officers Dunkin' Donuts gift cards and was joking around with them in a very light-hearted way. Phones were never seized, at least not until 2 years later, but by that point some of the party attendees even had new phones. Tamla was found to have a high amount of THC in her system and her death was ruled an accident. However, Tamla's family had an independent autopsy done and this kind of contradicted some of the information from the original one. First one stated she had a dislocated wrist, but the independent one showed this was actually a fracture of the right forearm. She didn't have injuries consistent with falling off a balcony. You'd kind of assume that if this was the case, she'd have skull fractures or missing teeth, etc., but she didn't. The doctor who conducted the autopsy stated that in his opinion, the lack of broken bones and the lack of a subcutaneous hemorrhage, which basically means bleeding below the skin, makes him skeptical that she fell from a building. Reports from the time also seem to suggest that the way she was found indicated she fell onto the floor from the ground, rather than from a distance up. Interestingly, the boyfriend of the woman who owned the house, Jose, was a court employee, and he ended up being sacked for illegally accessing documents related to the case. Let me know what you think about this case in the comments. As far as I can see, the family are still adamant that this was not an accident.